Every wound is treatable. We won't go under. We're gonna be all right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark Auerbach from ArtsBeat Radio. I'm here in the studios at 89.5 FM, WSKB, and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15 with a special program called How Are We Doing? A chance to check in with some of the people that I get to chat with on a regular basis on ArtsBeat, and also some of my colleagues, many of whom work from home and are able to give good advice on how to adjust during these difficult times. Our first guest today is Maureen Sullivan, who is the president of Maureen Sullivan Media, which deals with a lot of clients that do special events. And Maureen and I had a chance to collaborate and work on a recent project called The Big Broadcast, presented by the jazz ensembles at Mount Holyoke College, which happened right before everything closed down. And I think it was one of the last live performances before we were told to social distance and shelter in place. Good morning, Maureen.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Now, Maureen, you work from home. You work from home. And I've noticed on some of your Facebook postings that you've tried to add a little bit of style to working from home, that you're bringing in dinners, takeout from area restaurants and fresh flowers and things like that. How are you doing during this particular weird time?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to really keep a sense of normalcy, if that's possible. I have been splitting my time between my house and my significant other's house in Connecticut. So we just go from place to place. We don't, we keep our social distance. We're in the cars alone. So that's sort of broken up the I guess, monotony of being in one place.
In terms of your work, you had a pretty full plate when we last got together and we were working the big broadcast. What has happened with most of your upcoming events? Have they been postponed? Are they going as scheduled?
Well, no, they're not going as scheduled, not the ones that were scheduled in the next couple of months. I was working on a couple of events for clients and also a couple of event concepts of my own that I was going to partner with some local venues on. So I'm continuing to work on the plans for those events, but we just don't have a date yet. I know one of them for a client is Rita Raves. That happens in October. So I'm hoping, and the Republicans hoping, that by then we'll all be in the clear. We can get back together again.
I got a question for you. There are people that, since you're an event planner, there are people that are planning bar mitzvahs and weddings and all kinds of things. Should they put their plans on hold, or should they go forward as though the event's going to happen so that you have your caterer in place and the flowers in place and the invitations ready?
Well, I think that's a tricky question. I think it depends when those events are going to be. I think if they're going to be in the next 3 months, I would probably postpone if possible. Or here's an idea: have a virtual event and invite everyone who you would have invited anyway to the live event, and do a Zoom party. I think that at least that way there, the person who's going to be celebrated still gets that recognition and gets to interface with family and friends during this time.
That sounds like a good idea. What kind of social media are you using from working at home? Or actually, you're working from two homes. So your home office in Western Mass and your home office in Connecticut, what are your basic essentials?
So basic essentials, of course, are my phone, my cell phone, my laptop, and then my iPad. So I can toggle between different documents, using the iPad and using the laptop. I'm getting a lot of emails from colleagues, some emails from clients. It's interesting because I'm almost slightly busier than normal, just because everyone's reaching out and sharing ideas, and which is great. I can't say that all of that is income producing. It's not. But what I think is really important is that we're all still keeping in touch and that we're sharing ideas and planning for what's going to happen when this is over.
Now, for many years, you worked in other people's offices. You were the marketing director at the Republican newspaper for years, and you've had other jobs, so to speak, where you're at an office. And then you went off and started your company, and you have a home office. Is it a dedicated place in your house, or does it move from living room to patio, depending on the day of the week?
Well, I like a little bit of variety. I do actually have a room that's dedicated as my office. I had that office years ago, even when I worked for the newspaper. But somehow, once I started working full-time from home for myself, not using that office as much. So I really spend most of my time at the dining room table where it's really light. There's a lot of natural light, and I like that. So one of the things that's really nice about working from home is there's no overhead fluorescent light.
And do you structure your days like a 9 to 5 day working at home, or do you take breaks?
I do take breaks. I do try to keep it structured. I'm not always successful, I think, like most of us, but I like to keep somewhat of a routine because for me, I find it's really important to your psyche and to your productivity because it's really easy when you're at home to be distracted. But I go out and I walk every morning as long as the weather's nice. And then, of course, I try to take breaks, every hour or so, even if it's for 5 minutes, just to give my eyes a break from the computer.
And I mean, I know that you and I are very similar in that we work from home. We're social animals, so to speak. And I mean, I like to go, and part of my daily routine, I go to Starbucks, for example, just to pick up a latte. But there's always somebody there that I know, and I can sit and schmooze and take a little break. And of course, that's all gone now. So, how do you socialize with your friends?
I know, Mark, I miss our Starbucks meetings.
I know we haven't had one in a couple of weeks.
I know, but maybe we could do a virtual one. I've been making really good espresso coffee, and I put a little whipped cream and then cinnamon on the top, so I feel like I'm at a cafe. But we could do a virtual coffee meeting.
That sounds fabulous. What I've done, I used to take, I would always ask for a double cup at Starbucks, and I would bring the cups home, and then I would use them when I made coffee or tea at home. So I have a stack of Starbucks cups, and so now I pretend I'm my own barista, and I go in the kitchen, I order the Starbucks, I write my name misspelled on the cup, and I take a coffee break. But I've been going out to walk every day, and I find that's helping me kind of focus. And I'm also trying not to watch a lot of television. The television news, it just upsets me more than it helps me keep informed.
Oh, I agree with you. And, as someone who's worked in the newspaper business for most of her career, it's really hard for me to not pay attention to the news. But having said that, I don't watch much TV. I read, so I feel like it's a little bit less upsetting to read it than it is to hear people talking about it. I don't know about you.
I'm a radio person primarily, although I've done a lot of work in print as a media person. I tend to listen to NPR. I mean, there's a sense there. It's calmer than watching television. And I get the news the way I want to hear it, and then I can, turn to music. Music has become a real good companion for me working at home lately. And then I take my little breaks and I go to YouTube and I watch the ladies of The View slug it out and stuff like that. I found I've had more time to stream television and movies that I've missed. And I go, sometimes there's a wonderful radio station in Boston. It's a public station connected with Emerson College that plays show tunes 24/7, and it's available at standingroom.org. And sometimes I'll just put that on and listen to show tunes in the background while I work. But I miss the social aspect a lot.
I agree with you, and thank you for that tip on the Broadway tunes. I'll definitely take a listen. But I too am an NPR person, and so I have it on most mornings. And then when the classical music comes on, I didn't say this before, but always, even before this coronavirus time of coronavirus, I listen to NPR all day. I listen to the classical music. It's in the background as I work, and I find that it helps me to concentrate. It helps me to focus on what I'm doing.
You've always been a reporter on your journalism side that's dealt with lifestyle things, events. The Girls Just Want to Have Fun program that the Springfield newspaper started. And I noticed in your Facebook post that you were ordering in from restaurants, because restaurants are really hurting right now and need support. And you were surrounding yourself with fresh flowers and the other niceties that that make sheltering in place or social distancing a lot better.
Definitely. I think it's important, and it's important to try to support the local businesses as much as possible, some of our favorite ones, because these are incredibly tough times for them. I mean, for most of us, they're tough times, but, we want them to be able to stay in business when this is all over. And so anything each of us can do to contribute to helping them now will help us all be able to socialize and see each other again in our favorite places. A friend just sent me a link to a story about how very wealthy people are renting out entire hotels to get away from the city and to get away from densely populated areas. So, for example, one of my favorite places, my very good friend from growing up she sent me this link, the Cape Arundel Inn in Kennebunkport, Maine, is charging, I think it's like $9,500 a week to rent the whole place.
Well, I mean, most of us don't have that budget. To get away. I mean, I've come out of the office and gone outside of the Longmeadow town line to come here to the studio, but I thought how wonderful it would be to just drive up to the Berkshires now as spring is coming into being and do that. It's just not feasible or safe, really, when you think about it. And for the first time today, I noticed driving up Interstate 91 towards the Massachusetts Turnpike, the signs that always tell you to slow down or whatever, they all say that if you're coming into state from Connecticut or out of state to self-quarantine for 14 days. So I'm one of those people that just feels that travel's a little bit unsafe.
I agree with you. I think it's okay to just take a car ride. I think the only risk you have is, God forbid, you get in a car accident and have to go to the hospital. But, I think if you don't get out of the car, you take a little country drive, like when we were kids, we went on a Sunday drive. Maybe that's okay. I'm thankful that when I'm going back to Massachusetts, I have a Massachusetts plate, so I won't get stopped at the border.
You're very lucky in that regard. What are some of the restaurants that you've had food brought in from? Are most of your favorite places having food to go? And how do you order the food? Do you just call them and say, I want an order of this or that? Or how does it work for you?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, what we've been doing. So we'll go online and look at the menu. Some restaurants have a more limited menu, but others have the same menu. And we call and you pay for the order by credit card, and then a lot of them have drive-up, so you just drive up. They open the back door, they put the bag in. You've already paid, the receipt is with it, and we go home and we just wipe everything down before we transfer it to our own dinner plates. But we've gone to Galaxy in East Hampton, Delaney's Market in Longmeadow, one of our favorites. We went to Posto. And then down here in Connecticut, one of our favorite restaurants is Byron Rondo, which is not even 10 minutes from Tony's house, and they're doing takeout. And they're also selling all of their wines for 50% off the menu price. You can actually buy a bottle of wine.
Yeah, wine is very important when self-quarantining, don't you think?
I do, but I'm also worried that a lot of people are drinking a little too much.
Yeah, well,
You
one
know,
of the things,
can't drink every
as
day.
we work from home, day drinking is totally unacceptable. I mean,
Totally unacceptable.
you have to have your
Right.
schedule and stick to it. So 4:20 in the afternoon is okay for a cocktail, but not at 2:15.
Exactly. Exactly right. Right. One of my nieces texted me a couple of weeks ago, and when I asked her how they were doing, and she texted back, "Oh, we're doing well." She said 4 o'clock tends happy hour tends to start at 4 o'clock around here.
Maureen Sullivan, thanks for joining us today. Maureen Sullivan is the president and chief creative officer for Maureen Sullivan Media Group, who deals with a lot of events, and we hope pretty soon we'll get to socialize again.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure chatting with you, Mark, this morning. You be well.
Thanks, Maureen. Our next guest is Maestro Kevin Rhodes, who, as this corona outbreak and social distancing began, was in Europe conducting at in Oslo, Norway, the Norwegian Ballet. And he's home, and he's one of those artists who's found out that most of the seasons that he's involved with are postponed and canceled. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Happily, not ill. So that's always something to be happy about these days.
Now, you were in Oslo when conducting a repertoire performances at the ballet. Were those canceled or in the middle of the run?
Oh yes, we had barely. I had been there for two. Oh, I had by the time I left, I'd been there for 3 weeks. So the first 2 weeks were rehearsals, and we had just done our first performance, and I was sitting in my dressing room, as were many of the other people, ready to do the performance at about 40 minutes till curtain on the night of our second performance, and I suppose this would have been about the 10th. When they came over the intercom and said this evening's performance is canceled, go home. And then we waited. Then the next day, the health ministry then made their decision to close down any collections of people more than 200, and that quickly went down to nothing. But anyway, at that point, the next day, it was clear that our things were canceled at the Opera House for, I think at that point, we said a month and a half, and that included all of the production I was doing, sadly. And so then we got quick organized, and I got on a plane back to America. So here I am.
So here you are, and the Springfield Symphony has canceled the remainder of its season. What about your other orchestras, the Boston?
This is the same thing for all of us, of course. And I don't think there was a moment in time where one could say we canceled, but actually the point is everything was canceled for us. We at the end of the day, if anybody hadn't made a decision to cancel events, obviously with the quarantine restrictions, everybody's events got canceled for them. It's really quite a disaster in the freelance community because I take, for instance, the musicians who play in the Springfield Symphony. Most of them, for the most part, earn their living through playing in different orchestras in the Northeast, maybe a Broadway show one night, maybe then playing in the Rhode Island Philharmonic and one weekend, then Springfield the next, Vermont the next, New Hampshire the next, and they're back, and so they kind of do a rotation, most of our musicians, through the Northeastern orchestras. And so everybody has had their income canceled. Now, those who do private teaching are able to, continue some of their teaching via Zoom or internet, Skype, whatever. But of course, that's also certainly not running at full capacity either. So in our artist community, it's really dramatic. And all of my soloist friends have everything canceled for the foreseeable future. And the other thing is that we all sort of count on this period of time as being a particularly busy period of time, if you're a freelancer, to earn a big portion of your income. We have, there's also Easter, which comes in here, which a lot of musicians do a lot of Easter-specific work, be it church concerts or church services or special performances of choral works associated with Easter, etc. And of course, so it's I mean, I just read something the other day. Some singer, a very dear friend of mine, said, "I've had all of my contracts canceled for the next 4 months. If you need to find me, I'm going to be under the bed crying and hiding from the bill collector." So that's the way it is in our world.
Kevin, has the musicians' unions, I know some of the Actors Equity that deals with theater people, has provided a lot of resources in helping their union members get health benefits and get unemployment benefits. Is the musicians' union, are they helping these artists?
Well, I guess maybe. I have to admit. I mean, I know I get lots of announcements from the musicians union, but even though I am a member of the union, I don't function as a traditional union member. So I'm not altogether too clear about that. But I know they are following. I know the Symphony Orchestra League is actually today having a webinar to sort of give orchestras and orchestral people direction and resources about if there are any portions of these federal aid packages which could be applicable to the orchestras. So it's it's a tough moment, and there's also a piece of this which let's just assume everything is normal and we start next season. There's also a piece of this which affects next season, and that is, of course, that I think many of us can, and I'm making no judgment on this, I'm just stating it as fact, that many people will be who have purchased tickets for events which are not going to take place, will be transferring those tickets to events next season, in other words, taking a rain check. But this also means not only is this season taking a hit, but also next season is going to as well, because presumably that ticket that one will transfer for next season is then a ticket next season which is not being sold. So it's really a complex mess. I mean, and I don't want to be going, oh my God, we're the worst hit and we're in the worst situation of anybody. By us, I mean musicians, not my own personal circle of people. But it's a big deal. There's no question about it. Just for us, just like everybody else.
Now you had a full schedule this spring, ending up in like the end of June with the annual Nureyev Gala in Vienna. Has that been canceled, or is that a wait and see?
Right now, Vienna is wait and see. They have, and I'm waiting actually kind of, by my computer waiting to find out. They have given a date that is, quote unquote, the end of suspended performances. And that date is in a couple weeks, and given that everyone else's date is rather later, I kind of don't expect that to hold. And whether that'll end up being extended to the end of the season, who knows at this point. Right?
But you still
so
have
it's
to
just kind of wait and see.
You still have to prepare for it as though it's going to happen, right?
Well, yeah. Fortunately, preparing for it in this instance means just packing a suitcase and getting on a plane. I got the material down, so at least I don't have that drama of like, oh my God, I've got to learn a new big piece or new multiple pieces, and maybe they won't happen, or maybe they will. At least I'm not in that situation, thank goodness. But yeah. So we'll find out. We're all just holding our breath, waiting to hear what's going to happen next, just like everybody in every industry. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people are turning to online, and I know that the Springfield Symphony is launching an online program that you're involved with. You shared a little bit of it on Facebook. Is that going to be continued?
I don't think well, let's see. Today is what date? Help me out here.
This is airing on Wednesday, April 8th.
Wednesday, April 8th. So that means a week ago, for your listeners, we will have begun the idea is a weekly short connection with our patrons, with our fans, and it'll be some short musical performance one week, maybe another week something to do with our youth and educational programs, which I have to give a big shout out to our education director, Kirsten Lipkins, and her colleague, Patrick McMahon, they have really developed an amazing program online for the students in our youth orchestras. It's absolutely incredible, the extra work they are doing and how fantastically that's going. But for the general public, so we will start, like I said, we started that on April 1st. And so that'll be a fun way to connect with our audiences, and so just like everybody, we're trying to figure everything out. So I don't have many words about how that is all going to look, and and certainly I can't say, on April 17th we're going to have this, but we're going to have something, and every week, and who knows? Some weeks it might just be me here at my piano. But
wow, a musical interlude.
How often do we get to have a little live music here on the show?
That's true. Kevin, where can people find out about this? Are they going to post this on the website?
Yes. On our website and on Facebook, and I don't know if our Instagram is really Instagramming yet, but certainly Facebook and on our website, and I think also if one calls the office, they can also get additional information about where that'll be happening, and. So like I say, we're making it up as we go along. We have a little way to go till it's all finally made up.
But great music is often improvised, so that sort of works. You're working towards the 2020-21 season. When do you think that the orchestra will be able to announce what they're doing next year?
Well, I think that we're going to be holding off on that a little while, because I think clearly everybody's focus is very much on the next hour, a little bit more than what their plans are going to be for next year, September through May. So I think we want to give a little bit of space for all of these dramatic daily events that we're having to happen, and and just kind of see as we go through the month of April how things are developing, and hopefully before too long we will feel it's the right time to start talking about making plans for next year with our patrons and fans. But we're going to give, like I say, things just a little bit of space before we're ready for that.
And how are you doing with being in one place for an extended period of time? You're always with a suitcase packed, conducting one place or another, and you're home for...
Right.
Is it a change? I mean, how is Lola, your dog, feeling about having both parents home at the same time?
Lola is ecstatic. She is. She seems to be quite enjoying having her full pack at home with her. And it's. It's. How should I say it? It's of course super huge inconvenience that we can't go about our lives as normal, and that for me personally, it's really amazing, because this period of time that I am heading into right now, was going to be one of the busiest that I've had in years, if not ever, with like 4 or 5 crossings of the ocean, round trip crossings, and so lots of stuff. So all of a sudden, boom, from basically one day to the next, shift gears, and you're just sitting at home. That's really a big adjustment. But I'm sitting in my house, and my biggest problem is not gaining too much weight. So all things being relative, I'm in an okay place. And I've been spending a lot of time at the piano the last days, getting ready to start doing some webcasts, both for my orchestra here at the Springfield Symphony and my orchestra in Michigan, the Traverse Symphony, to be in touch with our patrons, at least from the piano, if not from the podium.
Thank you so much, Kevin Rhodes, for joining us this morning, and I hope that we'll be seeing you on the podium within the next couple of months.
Great, thank you. Me too.
We're going to take a break here to acknowledge the underwriters who make special programming like this available to you here on 89.5 FM WSKB and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15. Peter Coles is our chief engineer for this special broadcast, and we're broadcasting from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy. We'll be right back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Noble Hospital, a brand new name for a Westfield institution which is improving the health of our community every day with quality and compassion. Noble Hospital and Bay State Health, better together. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by Bay State Dental. Comprehensive dentistry at 14 convenient locations in Springfield, Chicopee, Longmeadow, West Springfield, Belchertown, East Longmeadow, Ludlow, Northampton, Greenfield, and Wilbraham, as well as 29 Broad Street in Westfield. Bay State Dental makes it a priority to help you achieve and maintain the healthy smile you deserve. On the web at baystatedental.com. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back, everyone, to this special program, How Are We Doing?, which talks about how all of us are coping with the coronavirus and staying at home, working from home, social distancing, and all that. Some of the people we're chatting with can offer specific advice because they've worked at home for years. Others are travelers adjusting to being in one place at one time. Our next guest today is Suzanne Boniface, who is a adjunct professor both at Westfield State University in the communications department. She's also a teacher at Bay Path University in Longmeadow and involved in a lot of special events. In fact, Suzanne and I were about to participate in a conference this week, which unfortunately has been canceled. Good morning, Suzanne. I can't hear Suzanne.
Good morning, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Hi, it's great to have you here. Suzanne, first of all, we were working on a conference that was going to be at Westfield State called Elevating Excellence. What's going to happen with that?
Yes, there was months of planning that went into that event that was going to be held in the communication department. We probably had over 15 different sessions that were being offered to the community. And we obviously had to cancel it, which was, very unfortunate. We are assessing what we're going to do right now. It will probably be, I would say, next spring again. I think once we get through this fall is going to be pretty booked with other events and people catching up. And we really think the best time would probably be move it to next spring.
You're teaching your rest of your classes this semester online, and I know that you've taught online before. How do you advise your students to make the most of an online class wherever they happen to be?
That's a really interesting question, and it's been an adjustment for a number of students who have never taken a course online. So I think from our standpoint, from the professor's standpoint, we're trying to be as patient as possible as students make the transition. What both universities did was give an extended spring break, so we could get ready for that as well as the students could get ready for that. So I'm in, like, from my standpoint, I'm in constant communication with my students through our online platforms as well as through regular email. And then we're using, at Westfield, we're using a platform called Zoom to communicate with the students with and actually to lecture with, as well as students are doing presentations that were scheduled, through Zoom. There's a number of other platforms that, different people are using. So we're actually in this great place right now with our technology ability to be able to continue in doing the classes and doing things that we're able to do. Obviously, some classes are a little more difficult to do that with, but from what I've seen, everybody at Westfield and Bay Path is stepping up to the plate and getting the job done.
What adjustments for your students that are working on projects? I know that your marketing and communications program, they've generally in the past have picked a nonprofit to work with and help them with a fundraising campaign or a marketing subscription ticket campaign, and they develop the campaign interviewing a lot of people. How can they do that when all of this has to be done by phone or online?
Right. So we have been communicating again through Zoom to move that project to an online project. For example, this semester, my advanced public relations students are working with, like you said, they pick a nonprofit every semester, and they're working with Jewish Family Services out of Springfield with their New American program to help refugees in their settlement here in this country. And they had two great creative campaigns created to help them. And they were doing fundraising as well as an awareness program. One was going to be at the Holyoke Mall. The other was going to be on campus. So now they've got to move those campaigns online. So we're in the process of planning that right now, and the students they're up to the task. And this is actually, it's unfortunate, but it's going to be good experience for them in the way of crisis communication, and that's something that we work on during the semester.
And who would have thought that a crisis like this could impact, I think that this from a media perspective, but the lessons that can be learned from what we're going through right now will be something that if these students will be able to take with them, and it'll change the way they communicate.
That's correct, and we have discussed this. There has been some concerns from them about how we're going to do this, but we talked it through Zoom, and again, they're stepping up to the plate. They're going to get it done. It is really good lessons for them, as I preach in my classes, when you're doing campaigns or events or something like this, there's always going to be something that doesn't go right. So be prepared to handle it. But nobody would have expected this.
Exactly.
This is extreme.
Exactly. You were, in addition to teaching, you are a public relations practitioner, one of the few that we have in the Valley. You were involved in some projects for people, and I guess you had mentioned actually we had coffee the day before that we were all required to just socially distance, and you had mentioned a program that you're working on a fundraiser for. What happened to that program?
Right. So that was a major fundraiser for a nonprofit in Holyoke called the Homework House, which tutors Holyoke students from the different schools in Holyoke. They provide free tutoring. They've been doing it for about 12 years, and this was going to be their 5th annual adult spelling bee. So that was going to be that was happening April 30th at Open Square. Wonderful program. Everybody has a great time. So we're now in the process of bringing that online also. So this is new to a lot of us to have to do that. So we've learned a lot in the past, say, 10 days in doing that. But I think it's going to be a wonderful program, and we have a number of people who are going to be involved in the April 30th event who are looking forward to this event, which will actually be open to the general public at no cost now.
That's terrific. Do you have other events in the future with clients, and are you putting everything on hold, or are you trying to just adjust them and make live events online?
Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty busy right now with the fundraiser, the Homework House fundraiser, as well as the two universities. Everything else is kind of on hold right now. It's just incredible and sad what's going on, but I think as all of us have to do, we remain positive and think towards the future.
When your students come to you and they're disappointed because they're graduating this year and there may not be a graduation ceremony or stuff like that, what do you advise them? Do you just commiserate and say, I understand, or do you try to help them see the light of the opportunity to profit from the experiences that they're having now?
I think that it's a little bit of everything that you mentioned. I do feel incredibly sad for them that they might miss the full type graduation experience, but both universities are in the process of deciding right now what's going to happen. I know I have some family members who go to universities throughout the country too, and some of them have moved graduation online, some have postponed it, that type of thing. So we're still in the process of making those decisions. And I think whatever happens with the two local universities that I teach at, it's going to be an experience to be remembered. And graduation always creates memories. So they might have different types of memories than you and I had when we graduated, but there's going to be memories. And I think that they're going to somehow, families, university, friends are going to work to make them special for them.
Before all of this happened, I mean, you taught in person at these two schools, and you had your PR thing. Did you have a home office? Did you work from home, or did you work in an office at one of the universities?
I've always worked from home for my PR type work. I've also, for many years, taught online at Westfield, and this semester teaching online at Bay Path. So the only change that I've had myself to do was to take 2 in-person classes at Westfield and transfer them to online classes.
So working at home for you has been something you've done for a while.
It is, but I have to say, Mark, that it's always been a little challenging, and that's why I often will take my laptop and my work and go to a coffee shop and work from the coffee shop, because working at home is somewhat distracting. So that's a change for me to have to work from home now. So that's been a little bit of a challenge, but we're all adjusting and we're all learning little gimmicks and tricks to make that work.
You want to share any of the tricks and gimmicks that you've learned with people that are having a really rough time adjusting?
Sure. So one thing that I do is that, and many of us are doing, I try to go out for a walk every day. If that's not possible, like a few days ago it was raining, that was not possible, I make sure I open the window no matter what the temperature is and let some fresh air in the house. The other thing I had to do, which I have not had to do for years, is I had to print out a calendar to have it in front of me so I can actually see where we are on the calendar right now. I've heard a lot of people ask, what day is today? But so I had to actually print this out and then circle what day is today.
It's funny. I'm stuck in that time warp too. I have a calendar,
right,
but it seems like when you're working at home all the time, one day just molds into the next, and sometimes I have to stop and think, where am I and what am I supposed to do today? Because my days are the same, and I'm not used to that.
Right, exactly. I think the other thing is that, we all have our home offices set up, and we can concentrate on the work that we're doing, which is great. Maybe take our mind off of what's going on right now. But then I look out my window, and I see people walking who I usually don't see walking, and that's a reminder of what's going on. So I have to kind of distract myself from that a little bit. But today's a gorgeous day. It's sunny, it's beautiful, and we can think about being hopeful and all that.
I've been walking every day too because the gym is closed, and even on the days
Right.
when the gym was open, I along with you am learning to walk again, and I find that there are a lot more people out walking than there were when I was, when the gyms were open, and people seem to be friendlier too. They say hello, and even though they keep their distance, so being outside for me is the best of all.
Right, right. And it's good that we're coming up on better weather, so we can all do that.
Indeed. Suzanne Boniface, thanks for joining us. I hope your special event online goes well and that we get to see each other soon.
Yes, me too. Thanks so much, Mark.
We've been chatting with Suzanne Boniface, who's in the communications department at both Westfield State University and Bay Path University. And our next guest coming up, we will be is also an educator, a mathematics teacher at Longmeadow High School, and we'll be talking about working from home, teaching from home, and all that. We want to welcome Robert O'Connell. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Mark. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm living the dream every day.
Living the dream. What's the transition been like for you from teaching in the classroom to teaching at home?
It is definitely a radical departure from what I would normally do. I'm accustomed to going to school in the morning, meeting with my students, just that face-to-face interaction, which is, even though we're doing video chats for some courses, it's not the same. But we're still delivering the curriculum at a slightly smaller pace, smaller chunks. We're definitely utilizing technology in ways we haven't previously.
And how are the students adapting?
It's interesting. Our more experienced students, the juniors and the seniors who have been working with this type of technology, a lot of our students have told me over the years that they will have late night FaceTime chats to discuss homework assignments or labs. So the older students are more accustomed to having conversations over video chat to really be learning from each other digitally. Our newer students, the freshmen, they tend to be new to this. I had a chat with a class this morning of freshmen, and a lot of our time this morning was spent teaching them how to access the technology, to use Zoom, all of the things that they can use, the clapping gesture, the raising your hand through a digital classroom, how to mute their microphones so that the noise in the background of their home doesn't interfere with the education that's going on for their classmates.
And since you're not used to working at home, do you have a home office that you're working from, or does that office move from living room to kitchen to whatever?
For the most part, I'm working out of my living room. It's a more comfortable place to sit. One of the things is I want to provide some sort of regularity for myself, but with teaching from home, the flow of the day is very different. For example, today I got up early, I prepared some assignments, I posted them at 8 a.m., and then I had my first actual teaching at 9 a.m. and then a second one at 10 a.m. So the back-to-back, I was sitting in a comfortable chair in front of a computer so that it's not too stressful on my body.
Exactly. You tutor as well as teach. Are you able to tutor online as well?
Yes. Most of the students that I have worked with over the last year or so don't really need the services because the pace that we've changed to. But some of the students that I have had over the years who are working on, say, AP Calculus, they'll still check in with me, in this case by FaceTime, to ask questions and make sure that they're moving forward. They appreciate that alternate perspective. It's nice to have someone teaching a topic, but it's also nice to hear a different perspective on the same problem. And I think that's what they rely on me for.
What do you tell the kids when they come to you and they say, the seniors, for example, if they're going to miss their prom likely, or their prom will be different, their graduation will be different, or juniors who are in the college application process. And of course, this entire stay-at-home thing and remote learning and everything has changed their opportunity to go visit colleges or take their SATs. And what do you tell them when they come and they're upset or nervous?
Well, we try and maintain a positive attitude. I mean, this is beyond their concerns about college, there are certainly other concerns that they probably never had before, that this quarantine and the distance learning and the social distancing has brought into their lives. But we try and maintain sort of an optimistic stance that we know graduation's coming. We're going to come up with some alternative way of doing graduation if we aren't able to do it live. I'm a class advisor, so for my freshmen who are officers now, they emailed me early in the week and said, what can we do? And I made some suggestions. Well, maybe you have an online contest. Who has the best social distancing room for education, or who has the best online outfit for math class this week? So trying to create other opportunities through the online learning for the students to continue that camaraderie and just the general fun that high school students have on a daily basis when they pass each other in the hall.
It's got to be difficult for them, I assume, because they're social animals and they like to congregate in groups, and the social distancing must be very difficult for all of them, right?
I would say yes. Yes, especially more of our students who really are social butterflies. This is really a heavy impact upon their social lives. But they are still finding ways, and unfortunately, in a lot of the playgrounds and basketball courts and such have been closed down. But the students do go out and walk. I do occasionally see a student on a bike just going around town, waving to a friend. He knows he can't necessarily get into a group with his friends, but he can at least, bicycle past their house and wave, or have a conversation at a distance.
Do you have the opportunity to, as a teacher, to work so that your students reach a certain level by the end of the year? For example, the juniors who are going to have to apply to colleges, they may not finish their junior year math to the way they would normally in a classroom. How will colleges, for example, adjust a year from now, or how do you think they might adjust a year from now when these students are applying? Or what about the graduating seniors who will not be able to complete a course as they might have? Will they be at a disadvantage when they start school in the fall?
I'm certainly not able to answer on the part of the colleges as to what their expectations will be for the students who are graduating this year. What I can say is that the College Board, for example, has made adjustments to their advanced placement exams, that the requirements and the topic list for both those exams has changed. They took about 25 to 30% of the course topics off the list, and they've shortened the exam. They're still offering that opportunity so that colleges know the students have done this work. But as to what the colleges will do, what will they expect of our students, unfortunately, I'm going to be a little pessimistic and say that a student who's taken BC Calculus, for example, will be expected to know all those topics when they arrive at university next year.
What do you...
As for our high school students, though, we've made adjustments. In any course that I teach, there are always those enrichment topics or just something to make it a little bit more exciting, more fun, because math at times can be dry. I enjoy the subject, but I know that it's dry for some of our students. So I've had to take some of those enrichment topics out to streamline the curriculum and move forward. In some cases, I've chosen the enrichment topic over the curriculum because it ties better to what's going on in their lives.
If you could speak to the parents, we have parents and grandparents that are listening. If you could speak to them about how to make these times easier for your students, what would you say to them? How do they support a child who's a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior in high school while they're learning at home? What can they do to make it easier?
I would say start with making sure that student has a dedicated place to do their homework, to work on this distance learning. For a lot of the students that I've spoken to over the years, I've often asked, do you have a desk that you sit at to do your homework at night? And a lot of them will say, no, I sit in front of the TV on the couch. But for this type of learning, it would be better if the students had a dedicated space, if possible. Even if that's the kitchen table and Johnny or Susie will be listening to a math lesson for an hour from 11 to 12. And if his siblings can be kept away from him, or just providing their student with those kinds of supports. But sometimes that's not a possibility. In that case, urge the students to stay in contact with their teachers. The beauty of email is a student can email me a question and I can email back an answer. And sometimes it takes 10 or 12 emails going back and forth to work through a problem. But students that I do that with are always appreciative, and they do learn the material.
Robert O'Connell, thanks for joining us today. Rob O'Connell is a mathematics teacher at Longmeadow High School, and this is the end of our second special called How We're Doing, which talks with various people in various areas about how they're coping with staying at home, working from home, social distancing, and all of that. It's produced by ArtsBeat at Westfield Technical Academy Studio 120. It will be aired on Westfield Community Television, Channel 15 at 89.5 FM WSKB, which is licensed to Westfield State University. Special thanks to our producer and engineer, Peter Coles, and to another anchor, Ken Stopsky, who has, during this period of social distancing, come in here to clean and declutter our studios at Studio 120. I'm Mark Auerbach. Don't forget to join me on Fridays at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat Radio TV, when I chat with people who are involved in the performing arts here and there. And despite the cancellations of a lot of performances and programs this next couple of weeks, there's a lot of arts activity we can talk about, and we do that on Fridays at 8 o'clock. Thanks for joining us today.
As we stumble along on life's funny journey, as we stumble along into the blue, we look here and we look there, seeking answers anywhere, never sure of where to turn or what to do. Still we bumble our way through life's crazy labyrinth, barely knowing left from right, nor right from wrong. And the best that we can do is hope a bluebird will sing his song as we stumble along. It's a dismal little world in which we live. It can bore you till you've nothing left to give. 7 overrated wonders, 7 underwhelming seas, 6 excruciating continents, Antarctica, oh please. Still, you mustn't let it lick you, this planet, oh so bland. Keep your eyeball on the highball in your hand as we stumble along across life's crowded dance floors, as we push and we shove, we live and we learn. And when we finally leave the bar and we see that morning star, we pull our bootstraps up and homeward turn. Then we stumble away